Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Devin Allen, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation today will be delivered by Tim Stevens, Pastor Tim Stevens from First Assembly in Azle. Thank you very much for coming out today. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Let's pray. Father in heaven, we just come before you right now, and we're thankful that your word says we can approach your throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and grace to help us in our time of need. Lord, I pray over Judge Whitley and every commissioner in making the decisions that they have to make, the discussions that will ensue. May your grace be upon them. May your wisdom be infused into them, and may they even have an increase of knowledge according to your word. Thank you that the psalmist said in Psalm 46:1 that you are our God and you are our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in time of trouble. You have assigned this commissioner's court today with some assignments that need to be taken care of, and I pray that you would continue to just keep your hand upon them. Lord, may you provide for them, protect them, and in the days that lie ahead, may we see your glory and your provision that has been given time and time again in the past. I know we'll see again. Thank you that you have kept us in these times, these troubling times, these times that are not normal. But Lord, you are still God, and we love you, and we thank you, and we praise you this day. In Jesus' name, we thank you for this opportunity to come before you. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, Pastor, for being here today. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor, members of court. Just a few announcements as it relates to the agenda this morning. Under the administrator section, both on item A1 and A3, we have revised court communications up in your red folders this morning. The first one, we've added another action item for you, which we'll discuss when we get to that particular point. On item number 3, which is a contract with MHMR of Tarrant County, we corrected the dollar amount. The initial one was incorrect. We've corrected that on that, and it's in the electronic court book also. Members of court, as we have done in the past, as we get close to the administrator section, we are going to ask the court if we could move to the briefing item, which is the health update by Mr. Tanasia, and then we'll proceed with the rest of the agenda. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of November the 3rd.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. We have a couple of congratulatory resolutions. Commissioner Fickus?
Yes, we do, and these are for ratification only. We have two of them. One is to Bill McClendon, who is a Hearst City Council member. And the second one is a congratulations resolution to Randy Clinton, President and CEO of Community Outreach Center. Randy is retiring, and with, I think, 25 plus years. So I would move for approval of both.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Any other announcements today?
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Brooks.
No, on the screen. Commissioner.
Well, I did want to share about the new testing location in Precinct 2 that serves not just Tarrant County, but regionally. It's at TCC Southeast Campus, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's a new COVID-19 testing location. I know that there are some additional, I'm sure that GK will probably share.
Thank you. Commissioner Brooks?
I just wanted to thank the citizens of Precinct 1 for the confidence they expressed in me by re-electing me to this office. It's been the high point of my life to serve Tarrant County Precinct 1, and to get to do it again is more than a blessing, and I thank you all.
I also want to thank the citizens of Precinct 3 for their support in me and allowing me to continue to serve for another term. And it has also been the highlight of my life to be able to serve in this position and an honor. And so we all we get to come back. So
I want to, I guess, make a couple of comments. Last Tuesday after court, I and my chief of staff went out to elections to help with anything that they needed us to help with. We had some issues with our absentee ballots because of a printer or a vendor that we had selected, a state authorized vendor. We had about 15,000, almost 16,000 ballots that had to be duplicated by, we ended up doing it by machine. So from basically Tuesday afternoon until Friday at about 6:30, Chandler and I worked out there, and I could not have been prouder of Tarrant County. And I'm going to say Tarrant County as a whole. We had folks on the ballot board. We had folks that were Democrats. We had folks that were Libertarians. We had folks that were Republicans. That they worked very well together in that 2-day, or I guess it was in that 4-day period. I never heard an argument. I never heard anyone raise their voice at anyone else there. It could not have gone smoother. We had poll watchers. They were very much a part of the deal, and they likewise, I think, did an excellent job. And then we had county volunteers, and their part in that deal was to actually do whatever the ballot board needed us to do to help them, or whatever elections needed us to do to help them. And it went for many different reasons, for many different things that we ended up doing. One of those was actually duplicating the ballots and then turning it over to the ballot board to make sure those duplications had occurred in an exact manner. Always under the supervision of ballot board members. And again, everybody worked so well together. You hear all of the stuff from around the country. I will tell you, I've heard a number of folks as they described the process that was going on in their county, in their state, about the fact that the folks that were in there doing the counting, doing that work, were committed to the integrity of the vote, to making sure every vote counted, and that they were working together to make that happen. And I think we in Tarrant County exemplified that better than any place I could have ever imagined. I especially want to thank, we had representatives. Now, there were certain departments, if there was an elected official on the ballot, then they could obviously send no one there to assist in this process. But we had, as I mentioned earlier, Chandler and I were there. We had folks from IT. We had folks from the county administrator's office, from the county clerk's office, from the district attorney's office, and from the district clerk. And I especially want to thank Tom for the people that he had more people there than the rest of us combined. And I'm going to tell you, they were there in the morning when I got there, and they were still there in the evening when I left. And they had different folks working shift folks. I know they were helping with the provisional ballots this weekend and really into the nights during the week. And well, you know, the comment I made is I now knew that at least somebody in the district clerk's office worked. They were complimentary of Mr. Wilder most of the time.
Bless their hearts.
And but it was very again, I just can't tell you how proud I was of the way the process worked. They're still now counting the provisional ballots. That's not something that really volunteers can assist with, or it takes a very special kind because of the investigation process that goes on in that. But it went well. And everybody worked very well together. So I just want to thank everybody that participated in that. We should have, we will canvass the ballots next Tuesday. And hopefully by the end of this week, we will have all the provisional ballots resolved, and we'll be ready to announce the final totals from that standpoint. But again, I couldn't have been prouder of our folks, and Tom, I really do want to thank you, as well as all the other department heads and elected officials that sent people out there to help with the process and to get the process through.
And kudos to Hyder Garcia.
Yes.
For running an outstanding election process.
Yes, he did.
And it was, I mean, there were challenges, and I think he met those challenges head on and was very focused on maintaining, the integrity. We said all along, integrity of the election was the number one priority. Number two priority was to make sure that all the votes that were to be counted were counted. And then last on the list was to get the results, to speed through the results. We tried to work as hard and as fast as we could, but the top priority was the integrity of the ballot and making sure that every vote that should be counted was counted. And I think Hyder did a fantastic job. So with that, court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion to second to approve the consent agenda. Please vote. Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius?
Your Honor, we can now go to the briefing agenda. We'll ask Vinny to come forward and make his presentation at this time. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the court.
Good morning, Benny.
So we'll go over our briefing for COVID-19. So as you know, things are progressing pretty rapidly. Let's see if this will move forward. I might need help from the back. Oh, there we go. It moved. Okay. So just to get you situationally aware, worldwide COVID is surging. Last week was pretty rough. On average, I think almost every day we had at least 500,000 cases. On one particular day, I think we were over 600,000. I believe it was last Friday or Saturday. So 50 million, almost 51 million cases worldwide, 1.2 million deaths. And that's, a lot is happening all over the world, but a lot is coming from the U.S. and India, so two major contributors to this surge here. The U.S. Certainly now over 10 million cases, 238,000 deaths. We've had our own rough week last week, several days above 100,000 cases. One day was close to about 128,000 cases. Texas is experiencing a surge of its own, certainly on the confirmed cases. That's what DSHS reports, 963,000. But I saw media reports over the weekend that we've surpassed 1 million when you add in all the probable cases. So I believe that to be true. 18,700 and some change on deaths, 9.7 million tests conducted overall. I think about 8.5 of the viral molecular tests. Tarrant County definitely experiencing a surge. If you've been, catching my updates or watching the news, yesterday was a big day. We had about 1,525 cases reported. This morning we'll add probably another 900 and some change. We've had several 900 case days over the last week. So certainly a true surge in Tarrant County as well. So over 76,000 cases, 768 deaths. That's 5 new deaths to report this morning, 58,000 recoveries. On the testing data, we're certainly making progress. 620,000 tests conducted in Tarrant County, according to DSHS. And I know y'all receive weekly emails, but our partnership with TDEM is going great. They've got a couple, 3 testing sites going. We have our testing sites going. Demand is up, but we still have ample testing capacity. So it's not like what we had in the past where we were out of appointments. We have plenty of appointments. Some of the testing locations, one particular one in NRH2O, they're putting out some big numbers, 1,600 a day sometimes. So there's definitely demand out there, but we're really adding to the totals here on the testing. So here's the global situation. I just kind of wanted to point out those levels that I marked, above 500,000 a day on several days. That's significant. U.S. numbers, we talked about, but I wanted to kind of point out to that top chart. As you can see, there's a acceleration in the trend, and we've surpassed our July peak. In July, that seemed pretty rough, but now it kind of looks small compared to where we are. So definitely a huge upsurge, and we're just heading into fall. The chart at the bottom with the arrow, that's Texas showing the spike developing. Certainly a cause for concern for the state of Texas, and I'll have a little bit more detailed chart here down the road. And I might need help from the back again. There we go. So here's another, a detailed view of the U.S. chart. As you can see, the acceleration has been pretty rapid, and that's the kind of stuff that worries us. Gradual cases, healthcare can handle, public health can handle, our community can handle. When it starts to accelerate like this, that's where it puts pressure everywhere, including on the healthcare system, on the public health system, and just community at large. People being out from work and productivity suffering all across. Those are the type of things that we worry about. Next slide. Oh, there we go. I can move it. So again, just a little bit detailed graph of what's happening in Texas. Again, as a state, we're approaching July-like levels. We're not there yet. But certainly a cause for concern because it's starting to accelerate across the state. 2 major population centers, of course, Tarrant County and El Paso, are contributing a lot. A lot of smaller counties are involved. They're experiencing high levels compared to their population, but they're small, so their numbers don't look as big as we're experiencing in the larger population centers. Here's the positivity rate. Certainly almost a double from the bottom. We were at 6%, just about 3-4 weeks ago, and now we're at 11.2%. So it's increasing. And I always highlight the yellow one because that is comparable to what we've been doing since the beginning. And I know DSHS had a different calculation going back up to, I think, in August, and they came back with these revised calculations. So the other rates are posted, but I only show the yellow line, which is comparable to ours. Here's the hospital trends in Tarrant County. I was starting to get a little hopeful last week because we saw that sort of flat plateau develop. But we broke through, unfortunately. We're going up. So certainly an upward trend has been resumed. The blue line at the bottom is what follows the governor's order, GA32. It shows 11%, but if you break down into the details, I think we were like at 11.8 or 11.9. So we're almost at 12% there. And I believe today's numbers are going to be a little bit higher than what it shows because this was yesterday's data. Here's the case trends. So I want to highlight again, on the left is how we track the outbreak. We go back and plot on the date of the test. So that really shows you how the outbreak progressed in the community. And as you can see, we're definitely surging on the right, and we're about to reach what we saw back in July. But on the right, I show that from time to time. It's just how cases are reported. And from a case volume standpoint, we've certainly hit a new high. Last week were 5,400 cases or more. So certainly seeing a definite uptrend in Tarrant County as well. Positivity rate, for several weeks we were between 9 and 12%, and it broke through. We're at about 15% now. So it's definitely increasing. I want to highlight there's a lot that's been said about the positivity rate, that it's above 10%, maybe you're not doing enough testing. I contend a little different, that we have ample testing because our appointments are not full. So what does this show? This shows us that there's a huge capacity of disease out there in our community that we're finding out by doing testing. So testing is a case finding tool, and obviously we're getting 15 out of 100 back as positive, so that's a cause for concern. A lot of times we don't always show mortality data, but there's been questions asked, where are the deaths and why are they not surging? Well, they follow several weeks after a surge. So I know that our surge has started about almost 7-8 weeks ago, and now the death numbers are starting to increase. They're not where we saw back in July, but definitely it's starting to follow the surge data. Our low was 9 deaths in a week, and now we're at 22 last week. So it's almost more than double from what we saw at a low. So it's definitely starting to increase. Our concern is that the data is going to follow, several weeks later after the surge. And then finally, COVID-like illness, even though it's a leading indicator, I was getting hopeful last week that, we've been on a sort of a flat trajectory for 2-3 weeks. Maybe we'll catch a break. Well, I guess not, because we've broken through and it's gone up in a spike fashion. So it's definitely trending upwards. The blue line at the bottom indicates influenza-like illness. Seasonally, typically it starts to surge after Thanksgiving, but we're starting to see an uptick. Not enough to give us any concerns at this point. Very optimistic. People are still following the masks, and there's been a true demand for flu vaccine out there. So hopefully we'll keep it at bay this year and have a milder flu season. But certainly we keep an eye out. They're both starting to tick up. COVID-like illness is going up and influenza-like illness is going up. So we're definitely heading into a major season. So,
Vinny,
yes, sir.
before you move on, I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
On the mortality data,
Yes, sir.
it's rising. Is there a shift in the age group as relates to mortality?
I'd have to go back and look at that. Typically, younger folks fight it off better. I know that anecdotally, I know of a few instances, where young folks died. Some were 40, some were 30. But it's not as severe as we saw with the older age group, 65 and above. That's where most of our mortality has been centered. I know that on the case data itself, people getting sick, there is a definite observable trend in more young folks getting sick. Almost 27% of our data shows under 25. So that's about 21,000 cases out of 76,000 are in the younger age group.
So about 25 to 27% of our cases now that are getting really sick are the ones that are 25 years and younger?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And again, it's just a function of us being out more in the younger age group. People are back to work, we're back to school, back to college. So, all those factors contributing to a shift in the younger population. Back in March and April, it was all about nursing homes and the elderly getting impacted because generally the rest of the folks were staying home and elderly were sort of staying in their nursing homes, but the workers were coming and going back into the community. So it kind of spilled over into the nursing homes and you saw a surge there. So what happens when there's a surge in the community? We're starting to see it creep back into nursing homes, creep back into jail settings. So those numbers are starting to go up. So just a reminder, that those congregate settings are still at risk and it's starting to happen back again in those settings. So, and I'll maybe have some data next week a little bit on what we have on those situations. So what happens next? If the trend continues, as we know, we don't have the policy measures available that we had back in March and April. All we can do is educate the public and maybe raise some awareness. So at this point, if the trend continues, we'll have to come back out and issue a public health warning that the data is getting very, very bad. And our holiday season is at risk. Given the backdrop that we have, and we're heading into Thanksgiving and other major holidays, we're going to have some problems because people are sick and tired of staying at home. I know my family has come over to visit, even though they know we're not supposed to meet. So we had to meet out in the backyard, sit there in the cold, had the fire pit going, and everybody sort of had a conversation with masks on. But it's hard, right? You know, you can't stay away from family for very long. But this year, we're going to have to figure out a way to have a Thanksgiving with our individual family and try to keep the extended family in a virtual setting, because our backdrop of increased cases is not going to allow a safe Thanksgiving with extended family. And it's hard because sometimes that's the only time of the year you get to see folks. Avoid all indoor and outdoor gatherings. Now, this is all non-binding guidance from your local public health, but I've looked all across. You know, there are places that are issuing orders to this effect, but several places are going with an order that no household member outside of the household should come visit. Whether it's enforceable or not, that's a different story. Indoor gatherings of over 6 are being prohibited in certain places. Outdoor gatherings of over 10 are being prohibited. So my best advice is that whether there's an order or not, we should follow this, because the backdrop in our community is very high, number of cases. Avoid indoor dining at restaurants. And the reason is we saw recent CDC data. What they're showing is that in the recent surge of cases, they did an analysis, people had at least one indoor dining experience over the last 2 weeks before they got sick. That doesn't mean they got sick at the indoor dining event, but it was one of the risk factors that was identified. So again, if that's something that's been identified, maybe we can go get takeout. I still want to make sure that the restaurants are supported, get takeout, ask for delivery, and it will probably help other sectors of the economy with delivery drivers getting more business, all these different companies that are out there. So definitely there's opportunity to support local businesses, but let's try to do it in a safer way. Similarly, avoiding, going to a bar or a gym. Again, this is non-binding guidance, but I've looked all across the country, and different parts of the country are starting to implement this kind of guidance. And I can't stress enough, this mask wearing, this is working. A lot of places are mandating it. In our situation, we're just asking the public to be very, very cautious. When the governor's order came out and our county judge's order came out back in July, we saw a drastic drop in our data because people followed. And I think we're getting complacent because the number of people that I can just visually see following mask guidance has gone down. It's kind of become almost half and half. And in certain situations, it's less than that. And as you can see, the numbers are surging. So why not do such a simple thing voluntarily? Why should somebody have to come and tell you? We have enough education that this works. And again, maintaining a 6-foot social distance. So those are some of the things that we should be doing. Again, this is all non-binding guidance, but we've looked across the country and even overseas. A lot of places are starting to do this, and we're surging, so why not do this? So a lot of bad news, but I've got a silver lining. So yesterday was a big day. Pfizer, a pharmaceutical company, announced that they have a very effective COVID vaccine. They're saying it's about 90% effective, which surprised a lot of folks. We were not expecting a vaccine to be that effective. And now they're taking all their safety data and their vaccine efficacy data to the FDA, hopefully by the end of this month. And we'll have more information once the FDA reviews and approves everything. But early indications are that by the end of the year, we could have this vaccine. Now, it's not going to be available in large numbers for everybody. So they're probably going to prioritize it for first responders, healthcare workers, and so forth. And the distribution is going to have its own logistical challenges. But silver lining is there that, we will have a solution that we can start giving out to the public here soon. And that way, we can try to get back to some normal. But till then, all we have are these public health measures we talked about: wearing a mask, staying home unless absolutely necessary, avoiding certain activities that are known to be high risk. We can just hang on for a few more months, and hopefully we'll get back to normal after that. But that's all the advice I have, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Just a comment, Benny, and that is that we are in a very serious period with this virus. It is rampaging through our community. You said we have not yet reached July levels. I don't see how that's possible. because in at least 4 of the past 6 days, we have had record high infections, each succeeding day breaking the record set by the previous day. This is serious.
Yes, sir, it is.
And I know that it is frustrating to our citizenry. People are tired of complying, but we cannot get tired in well-doing. For in due season, we shall reap if we faint not. This is not the time to get faint-hearted. This is the time to put the pedal to the metal and power through this infection. And I cannot emphasize that strongly enough, that we are in a real crisis, a real public health crisis in this community. I don't know when the judge is going to declare it, but it's coming, I can assure you.
Well, we are under a public health crisis
Yes, sir,
right
we are.
now. And I feel certain that come in fact, probably over the next couple of weeks, well, definitely over the next couple of weeks, I'll be bringing back to the court probably an extension of the emergency as well, and we'll be discussing the masks at that point in time. I am staying in very close communication with the hospitals. They, have indicated that they're still very confident in their abilities to keep the hospitals open. But I agree, we're seeing real spikes in numbers, and I think a lot of that is related to the opening back of schools. We can figure that if there's just 50% of the students going back, that's over 200,000. We have done the athletic programs, and I really believe that that is one of the areas, football, the volleyball. I know over the weekend we have softball and we have baseball and volleyball competitions that kids are in. Those are the things that I wish would cease right now. I do not have the authority. The governor has not allowed us to have the authority to move into that area. But I believe very strongly that those are some of the areas that are causing this significant increase in the spread. So I wish that we could persuade the governor to give us a little bit more flexibility in some of our major urban areas. And I wish that the schools would look into the possibility of postponing or suspending the athletic activities at this point in time, and all of the youth associations that the cities have, whether it be basketball, whether it be football, whether it be volleyball, softball, baseball, all of them would put everything on hold for a little while, because when I go out to these types of events, not only, the kids that are on the field are supposed to be able to not wear masks, but when they come into the dugout and when you look at the bleachers with the parents, very few are wearing masks. And I know it's an outdoor event, but it's still, they're close together, they're not social distancing. We need to try to get this under control. And, again, I am a very strong believer in the masks. I do believe that they have made a difference.
Yes, sir.
The hospitals will tell you that they're not seeing the flu cases yet. Now, as you said, those normally really pop up after Thanksgiving. But they believe that the masks are helping keep the flu at bay right now. So I hope that people will be very diligent about continuing to wear the masks, continuing to social distance, wash the hands, stay at home if there's not a reason for you to be out, because you're right, the numbers are going up. They're not, again, at least at this point,
The hospitals are not seeing the levels that were reached in July, late July, early August. They feel comfortable about their ability to staff the beds. They do feel like that they have learned over the last, I guess I'd say 8 to 10 months, how better to deal with the virus and to treat the virus. But we still, as Commissioner Brooks said, we do not need to let our guard down. We need to continue to be very focused on trying to do those things that we can. And again, I would just, I would really ask the school boards to look at all of their athletic events. And I would ask all the cities to examine the ability to shut down all of their youth, whether it be football, baseball, basketball, volleyball, whatever, youth organizations or any other organization that is responsible for putting those things together. I know there are tournaments every weekend, and we just need to stop that right now. I understand the importance of that. I raised 3 kids, and I'm seeing 9 grandkids now. 9. Number 9 was born last Wednesday. But it's just time to put the brakes on those until we can get past this. So again, I thank you very much, and we're going to continue to work on that.
There's another activity that we need to keep an eye on, and that is the number of people driving over here from Dallas County to drink, because our bars are open and theirs are not.
And I hear that, and I understand that, but here's my problem with that. The bars that are violating are the biggest offenders of the social distancing and the mask policies have driven through a loophole that was as big as a truck and become restaurants. And so by, the bars that had stayed in compliance and had stayed closed and we opened up, I don't believe they are the cause of the big increase. I think it's those bars that cater to the college age population, maybe a little older than that, and they are stuffing them in. They are not taking care of social distancing. They're not taking care of wearing the masks. But because they're considered to be a restaurant and they allowed that to happen, that loophole to happen, then even if I shut the bars down again, the violators, the ones that are abusing it, would still be open because they'd be considered restaurants. And that's my biggest problem from that standpoint.
Thank
I
you.
do have a few questions for Vinny.
Yes, ma'am.
One, I do want to say that I agree with much of what my colleagues have said, and I know, Vinny, we've communicated about my concerns. One, I did just want to express thanks to your team and emergency management and TDM and TCC for the partnership for that testing location in Precinct 2. And then just stress that even though it's in Tarrant County, because of the partnership with the state, that it's open to those outside of Tarrant County. So please do take advantage of that resource. My 2 questions for you, Vinny, is are we able to see any trends in uptick in cases related to maybe celebrations for Halloween or even folks who voted in person? Any trends there, given it's been, maybe a week to 2 weeks or so since some of those activities would have occurred?
Yeah, so the recent uptick in cases, I think, is tied to all of that because we had a lot of activity, in the community. It's hard to tie it down to one particular event because multiple things were happening at the same time. Halloween was happening, voting was happening. We had a lot of, sporting events in the community, variety of different things. So it's hard to pinpoint a particular event, but certainly, increased number of people coming together, and now we're seeing a surge a couple, 3 weeks down the road. To me, it makes sort of logical sense that the time frame aligns well, that when you put a lot of people together 2 or 3 weeks down the road, you see a huge number of cases.
Understood. My second question is about the flu. And how are we going with our efforts to distribute vaccines?
Yes, so 2 or 3 different things. As you recall, we had a discussion about, getting the FQHC a flu vaccine. That's the North Texas Area Community Health Center. They have 3 locations. We transferred our first 1,500 doses to them, and they've asked for high-dose flu vaccine, so we're making arrangements to get that transferred over as well. Public health clinics are also ready and getting ready to start giving out the free flu vaccine. We've got everything worked out in our system. And I had a brief conversation with JPS this morning, and we have a detailed meeting this afternoon to go over the process that they're going to be able to follow within their clinics and any other community events that any 3 of us get invited to. So we're working our way through that. I know that Public Health Department has had to reach out from a couple, 3 different community events, so we'll be taking the vaccine out to these events. And again, as city partners watch and we have meetings with them, we're going to encourage them to let us know if there are any community events happening, health fair type of deals where people bring flu shots or other services. The health department will be happy to send a outreach team and provide free flu shots there as well.
Great, thank you, Vinny.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vinny.
Okay, Your Honor, we have audience participation forms.
Really? I thought it was all cured after November the 4th. You can see my smile behind the mask, can't you?
Yes. So we have several people that are here to speak to the court. We have 1 telephone call, and then we have, I believe, five participants that want us to read their statement into the record. And then finally, Your Honor, I just want to point out, we do have 1 additional audience participation form that does not concern COVID-19, but it's a separate one, and we can need, and that does not deal with anything on the agenda. So where we have audience participation, we can take it at that point.
Okay, I want to take that one, I believe, first.
Okay.
But I also want to make an announcement. I got a text just a few minutes ago from our sheriff's department that one of our jail lieutenants, believe she was, do not have a name, not sure I should mention it if I did, but one of our lieutenants had gotten out to help someone who had been a motorist that had been involved in an accident, and a car hit her and then drove off. She has been taken to, I don't know whether she's been taken to the hospital and is in surgery right now. I don't think it's a life critical type of an event, but she is in surgery right now. And so I would just simply ask that you please keep her in your prayers as we go through the day. With that, I am going to ask Mr. Tony Abbs to come forward. Mr. Abbs, we normally do this at the end, but I'm going to bring you up early so you do not have to be around for the next couple of hours as we move through the rest of the business that we have.
All right, thank you, Judge. I
Now,
appreciate
you have
it.
3 minutes, and let me just to be clear, let me make a couple of things. I forget that not everybody comes here every week. Because it's not on the agenda today, we cannot respond to your comments or what you're bringing here. So don't think that means we're not interested. It's just by state law, because it's not on our agenda, we can't respond to you. What we may do is to refer you to Mr. Manius or to someone else to try to help and to resolve your issue. You have 3 minutes. So if you'll just go ahead and state your name and then make any comments you wish to make for a 3-minute period.
Okay. My name is Tony
And
Abbs.
you can take the mask off while you're at the podium.
Thank you, sir. Again, my name is Tony Abbs. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to come up here. I am a citizen here in Tarrant County. I've been a citizen here since all my life. I was born and raised here. On November the 3rd, this past November the 3rd, I was protesting outside the courthouse on Miller. I have a right to protest. I was on a city sidewalk protesting. I was protesting Vance Key, who was running for sheriff, and I was protesting the thing that he was doing, did to me and my family since when he was a lieutenant in the Interior Affairs. And I made a comment to him while I was on the sidewalk protesting. I made a comment to everybody. My comment was, Keys is like a lizard. He'll turn color on you in a minute. Key got mad, got up, came up in my face while I'm on the public sidewalk and threatened to arrest me. And I say, for what? I have a right to protest. Then one of his guys grabbed Key, pulled him back, and two guys, I guess they was in this ministry against crimes, came up, one grabbed me, one bumped me, tried to bump me off the sidewalk, and I'm just protesting. It's my civil right. But I'm not here from that. I'm here because then the constable in Precinct 8, Mike Campbell, one of his constables came up to me and said these exact words. Well, I'm not going to say the exact word he said because I think it's appropriate here. He said, get my ASS off away from here. You ain't finna protest, said the S word, okay? So it's my right, and I wasn't gonna do it. And then the other guys that was with him kept bumping me and grabbing me, so I called 911. And then that's another deal with the Ford police. But my deal is that what I'm hearing is that I have a right to protest, and I will stop against the constable. And then his constables, that constable that stopped me and another constable came up, used vocal language. I was called the B, I was called the H, I was called every dirty word in the street, and these guys are our constable. And I'm coming here to say that if these guys gonna police us, if they're gonna police us, they need to have video and camera. They need to have a camera and recording on there, because the words they used and what they did was uncalled for, and it was not professional. So I am here asking the court to please put this on the agenda, because I really believe that we need to have videos and cameras on cameras and tape recorder on these constables.
Okay, Mr. Ives, that's 3 minutes. Thank you. I may ask that you provide any details and requests to you. GK, do you want it to be you or Jay or? Jay,
can I say one more thing I've done? Real quick, if you Google my name, Tony Ives Football, ABBS, and click on that video, you will see what Key's done to me and why I had that right to protest on that sidewalk. And what that constable did was dead wrong. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, next, I'm going to call Rebecca Rogers.
You have reached Rebecca Rogers. At the tone, please leave your name and number in a brief message, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
We will try her again later. Mr. Manius, I think we have one that was going to be here. Jody was going to be here in person, but then asked that we call and said that she wasn't, and asked that you read her comment.
And I believe we have another person that also did that. That is Rebecca H.
Rebecca H. Okay.
Would you like me to read those into the record now?
I think she may
be here. Let's start off with Jody's, and then after that, what we'll do is we will, I will call and see if Rebecca's here, and if she's not, then we'll read it in the record also.
So these are the comments of Jody. I typically show up to share grievances regarding the unlawful mask orders and shutdowns. However, I am an advocate first and foremost and needed elsewhere and can't stomach the recent event of collateral damage, the New World Order, and cover-up of the Freemason agenda Whitley is involved in. My good friend lost her mother that had been abused and neglected in a nursing home. She went in with early onset of dementia. Due to the unlawful quarantines and isolation of loved ones to further the Agenda 21, Ms. Lyman was neglected and had bed sores over the bottom half of her entire body, including the heels of her feet. After discovering this atrocity and due to a welfare check by a deputy sheriff, my friend took her mother home to die, as she knew that leaving her in an her to be abused was an incentive for the nursing home facility to have a COVID death in order to receive funding and to elevate fraud numbers. Imagine if this was your mother, Judge Woodley.
Okay, next, we'll see if Rebecca H. Is Rebecca H. here? Okay, we'll give one more chance. Is Rebecca H. here? And if she is, please come forward.
I don't believe she's there.
Okay, go ahead and read that into the...
These are the comments of Rebecca H. I'm the mother of two boys, ages 4 and 8 months. I cannot work due to the mask mandate, as I have severe claustrophobia and asthma. My youngest has asthma issues, as well as aversion to things on his face and even certain fabrics that he is allergic to, so he is unable to attend school. We also do not have the funds to purchase a computer, and I am unable to help with schooling due to my severe lack of education, personally with technology. My 8-month-old son has regressed in his milestones he has made and no longer smiles or laughs. I cannot take him to the pediatric doctor for vaccines or for a checkup due to the mask order and me not being able to wear one. My son has been screaming anytime I feel forced to put one on just to buy groceries or diapers. He goes into an absolute fit for at least 20 minutes each episode, and it is causing me problems with my PTSD from past trauma as my time in foster care. Would you be okay with these if these were your grandsons?
I'm going to try Rebecca Rogers again.
Hello.
Rebecca, this is Judge Whitley. We're at that point in the agenda for audience participation. You had requested a call, so you have 3 minutes to make any comments you wish to make.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm no longer surprised by the blatant hypocrisy that continues to be revealed regarding coronavirus. Our government agencies from the top down has repeatedly tried to convince the public how deadly this virus is. We've had months of lockdowns, placing people in quarantine, rearranging our elections to promote fraud, and issued a range of unconstitutional mandates forced on the people for a virus with over a 99% survival rate. Just last week, on November 2nd, the day before the election, the CDC shed light on the fact that the coronavirus was in fact really not all that dangerous or deadly. According to the CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, says people sick with coronavirus and those quarantining after being exposed can safely vote in person if they follow the health agency's recommendations. Voters have the right to vote regardless of whether they are sick or in quarantine, the CDC states on its guidance for polling locations and voters. The CDC says voters who are sick or have been exposed should take the proper steps to protect all poll workers and other voters from contracting the virus. Those basic steps included mask wearing, staying at least 6 feet away from others, and hand washing before and after voting. In addition to those health measures, sick voters should let poll workers know about their condition when they arrive at the polling location and minimize the amount of time they spend at the polls. Poll workers should be provided with personal protective equipment such as masks, face shields, gloves, trained use for the equipment. The CDC said that there's possible alternative voting options should be made available for those with COVID-19 and those that have been exposed to someone with the virus. That could include a designated voting site for those who are ill, extended hours, or curbside voting. CDC's recommendation for isolating someone who has COVID-19 or quarantining someone who was in close contact with a person with COVID-19 would not preclude them from exercising their rights to vote. A CDC spokesperson told CNN on Monday. The guidance from the CDC comes as health officials for months have urged those who are infected and exposed to avoid crowds and quarantine for 14 days to mitigate the spread of the virus. It has been revealed over and over that this virus is not as deadly as those in powers had hoped it to be. This latest statement from the CDC provides even more evidence and arguments that it is time to let our immune system do what God intended it for it to do, and all unconstitutional mandates be lifted. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Have a good day. Next is Jennifer Traeger. Good morning.
Good morning. As I'm sure many of you saw, Cook Children's came out with an article a few weeks ago stating that it has seen its worst month on record for suicide attempts. 37 children and teens were seen. This is a clear picture of what this virus that has an almost 99% survival rate is doing to children. As of November 4th, Cook Children's tested 41,156 patients. Nearly 39,000 have tested negative, with only 2,266 positives and 2 currently in the hospital. 37 were seen in September for suicide attempt. Children see people in masks and it instills fear in them. People are walking around with masks, acting like they're sick. Treating people who are not sick as if they are sick by forcing them to act sick, social distance, mask, quarantine, isolation is a mental illness. The 2012-13 flu killed 10 times as many kids as COVID has. No one was trying to keep schools closed then. What happened to the flu protocols we've always been told to follow? Cover your cough and sneeze, wash your hands, and stay home if you are sick. Mr. Tanasia, how many kids or close contacts are you willing to make sit at home who never developed COVID-19 in order to avoid one positive case? Maybe we need to teach people how to be healthy. 80% of COVID hospitalizations were deficient in vitamin D. Instead of telling people to stay inside and not be around others, maybe educate them on sunshine, exercise, and eating healthy. The U.S. weekly COVID fatality rates were at 12% in April. Since July, it has been at a steady below 22%. The highest population every year for fatalities are people aged 85 and over. 713,046 have died from all different causes. 66,960 of those were from COVID. That's 9.4%. While we're constantly seeing charts of COVID cases, where are the charts for suicide and unemployment? Do some have selective empathy? Many have lost their livelihood from this virus, which could be equivalent to a death. All jobs are essential because income is essential. Tarrant County unemployment is up 116% since February. When we met in July, you said that the mask mandate was so businesses can open. As you can tell, many businesses, especially downtown, are closed. Continuing to wear masks tells people things are not okay, but you have the ability to control that narrative. Most of us are more likely to die while driving to school, work, or a doctor's appointment. But until people choose to report and look at that, the public will continue to live in fear. Hopefully some of this madness can end sooner than later. I'm not sure how much more these children can mentally, physically, or emotionally handle. This has become a battle of power and money versus people. And I just wanted to add to what Mr. Tanejo was talking about with Fort Worth ISD numbers. As of 10/26, there's 129 students that had tested positive. Assuming 73,000 are enrolled and 50% are in person, that's a 0.35%.
Thank you, Ms. Trigger.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Janet Jackson, followed by Sherrod Perry, followed by Troy Paul, and then Shannon Paul.
Your Honor, those, the Pauls, I believe they have statements on them.
Okay. You're right, and as does Ms. Martin after that.
Hello, I'm Janet Jackson. And I'm going to have you sit in silence to mourn the 37 lives that have tried to attempt suicide, who will forever be scarred. None of you have any empathy for what you're putting the citizens of Tarrant County through. My last 2 minutes I'll spend. The Constitution was written by our forefathers to protect the rights and the freedoms of the people that have been endowed to us by our Creator. You are not my Creator. None of you are. We, the people, must take responsibility in protecting the Constitution, as it cannot protect itself from tyrants. Since Sharon Wilson has been remiss in her duties as legal counsel, I wonder, does she understand what separation of powers are? If she doesn't, she needs to go back to law school. And many of you need to go get an education also. Separation of powers, as stated by Article 2. You do not have the right to make law. You do not have the right to make mandates. You cannot execute anything. An executive order is for you to direct your employees how to enforce policy. You are in violation of Article 2 of the Constitution, which is an act of sedition. Anything that has the appearance of law, any executive order, is an illegitimate order that tries to put prohibition on the citizenry. You have no right to do this. You think you do, and Abbott does. The Constitution clearly says you cannot do that, and his own act of declaration of emergency says a plan has to be put in place. There is no plan. Y'all are flying by the seat of your pants and throwing dung against the wall to see what dung will stick and what will slide, and what the citizens will put up with and what they will not.
Time's up. Ms. Jackson, thank you. Sherrod Perry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, I have a packet here It has some graphs in there that I wanted to share with you. I don't know if Natalie you all got a copy? Okay. And I think you all may have got a copy too, as remotely. And also I sent a copy to Commissioner Allen as well, so I don't know if she passed it along to you or not. So, all right. Oh, my time is gone already. Okay, let me get started. So again, the header of this handout here is these 12 graphs show that mask mandates do nothing to stop COVID-19. And there's not 12 graphs in this handout. I took out some pages, but you can, if you go to the article, you can see all of them. But if you go to page 2 of it, there's just some text in here that I wanted to sort of reread to you. It says, studies do show that masks can help in the case of direct respiratory droplets. That's on page 2. So if we say that masks, the truth is, yes, can masks block droplets? Sure. Even Dr. Fauci said so back in February or March, that yes, masks can block droplets. But let's talk about aerosols. And there's plentiful evidence, as it says here, that masks do not help meaningfully help with aerosols. So again, essentially the point is that when you breathe through a mask, as we pointed out before, the air is going to come out through the sides of the mask. And there's videos I've seen where the air is coming through the mask itself, like you can breathe smoke through this mask. So aerosols are coming out through the sides, through the front. So essentially that's what we're talking about now is aerosols. But let me go to the graphs. If you go to page 3 of this, I'm on the page with Austria and Germany. All these graphs are showing you is where mask mandates were implemented. And I referred to this last week, but I didn't have the graphs with me, so I want to show you. They put in I want to show you points where they put the mask mandate in, and you saw virtually no change really in the path of the cases. So in this case with Austria and Germany, the cases were already trending downward, and they put in a mask mandate, and the trend would just continue, but there was no drastic drop. It was already dropping. But if you go to the next page here with the UK and Belgium. Okay, and in Britain and Belgium, they implemented a mask mandate, and for a while things stayed low. But then if you look at the very end of this chart, we see spikes. So you've got spikes in UK and spikes in Belgium, and they're requiring masks, but eventually they had a spike. If you go to the next page with Italy, this one was very interesting to me, is that as soon as they put in a mask mandate, they had a spike in cases. So yet again, they put in a mask mandate and spikes nevertheless. So again, if you look around, and if you go to the next page, this is another good chart here. You see a lot of black graphs with black lines and red lines. The red lines are countries where no masks were required at all, and you can see that their spikes were much lower than all the black lines, where these are countries where masks were required. So again, now that we've been implementing this policy for months now, it's time to look at the data to see what has these policies actually changed. And again, more and more data is coming out to show you that masks are not effective. It's become this cultish belief in masks, but the data is not supporting it. And again, the reason I'm wearing this shirt is just to say that all of this talk about masks and 6 feet apart and everything else, again, to me, that this is all part of, I've said it before, this is part of an agenda. This is a part of an agenda to condition the public to accept compliance to things that do not make sense to them, but comply anyway. And it's all training for a larger agenda. Comply to the vaccine.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Perry.
You're welcome.
We have 3 comments. Mr. Manius, you tell me where you want to start.
So we could start with Troy Paul. These are Mr. Paul's comments. Mr. Whitley, in a few short weeks, the day will arrive for your mask mandate to end. What are your intentions regarding the expiration of your mask mandate? Commissioners, what are your intentions if Mr. Whitley decides that he wants to renew the mask mandate? Will you go along with another renewal of his mask mandate? I know you are not obligated to answer these questions, and I know that you are less inclined to answer me since I am not physically present in this meeting. Be confident that we, the citizens of Tarrant County, do not appreciate this court's attempt to make health care decisions for us. This is not your job or responsibility. In truth, we know this declaration of disaster is about spending money. The mask mandate is simply a guise to give the appearance of your declared disaster, and even more so, it is about you exhibiting control over the people you are elected to serve. We will not forget how you treated us at our next opportunity to file for your office in an election. Those are Mr. Paul's comments. Donna, if we can go to Shannon Paul, if that's okay with you? Okay. These are Ms. Paul's comments. Last week I requested you each do homework on the effectiveness of masks. Time to trade answers. My findings from a multiple of peer-reviewed RCTs. Number one, face mask use has not been demonstrated to provide benefit in terms of cold symptoms. Two, no study established a conclusive relationship between mask use and protection against influenza infection. Three, there's limited evidence base to support the use of masks in healthcare community settings. 4, wearing an N95 mask for 4 hours significantly reduces PaO2 and increased respiratory adverse effects. 5, first RCT of cloth mask caution against their use. Moisture retention, reuse, and pure filtration may result in increased risk of infection. No RCT study with verified outcome shows a benefit for community members to wearing a mask. There is no such study. There are no exceptions. Likewise, no study exists that shows a benefit for a broad policy to wear masks in public. No one in their right mind should mandate the use of face masks. Unmask Tarrant County. And then finally, these are the comments of Dawn Martin. This mask hysteria overreach of our government has shown that our freedom of liberty is very fragile. Government has grown too large, and realized fear is a powerful tool. People will comply if they are fearful. To that I say, shame on all of you. Shame on you for reporting manipulated, inaccurate data. Shame on you, all of you, for having a hand in stealing away our liberties. Shame on you for shredding our confidence in the elected officials that we supported to protect our rights. Each one of you have been complicit in the government theater, pretending like you care about human beings when all you care about is control. 8 months and all we still hear is wear your mask. More lockdowns and more. Lockdowns and masks have been proven to only cause more problems. Sweden has proven that they are not necessary. There is no goalpost to end this madness, only goalpost to keep the masses in fear and in control. We will continue to fight. We will not allow you to get away with this forever. Those concludes Ms. Martin's comments. Your Honor, I do not have any other comments or any other sheets at this time.
That concludes our comments then related to that matter. Why don't we take about a 10-minute recess? She's not blinking yet, so she's not ready yet. Okay, Megan, blink at us.
She's
ready. Blinking?
Yep. Okay. Ready to start? Okay, great. If we can now go to the administrator section, and we're going to go to item number 1. I told you that there was a revised court communication in your folder. There is, because at the conclusion of Guidehouse's presentation and our update on our Care for Tarrant programs, we're going to be asking the court for 2 action items as it relates to that. So, Rachel, are you there from Guidehouse?
Yes, I'm here, DK.
Okay,
Can I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
Are we going to cover MHMR's thing here pretty quick, or could we put that up to the front and kick them out of here?
I think we'll be there in about 5 minutes or so.
Okay, if we're there in 5 minutes, then continue your
Okay, Rachel, go ahead.
diligent review.
Okay, sure. Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. If we can advance to the project status slide, we'll get started. We'll begin with recent activities. Last week, we provided feedback on the CRF eligibility of various expenditures, including those submitted by a municipality that received an allocation of the county's CRF funds. We also reviewed the recently released desk procedures from Treasury OIG and updated the county on what they can expect from a future audit from OIG. We developed a form for municipalities to use to document their capital expenditures, and here we're talking mostly about equipment and some property improvements that are related to social distancing. And this form aligns with the updated guidance that we discussed last week, which requires CRF recipients to provide additional documentation for these types of expenditures. The county is reviewing this form, and so I expect it'll be released fairly soon. We also provided feedback on the CRF eligibility of expenses from volunteer fire departments and supported revisions to their budget justifications. We provided the county with information to assist in their own documentation of capital expenditures as it relates to the updated guidance I mentioned earlier. We also updated the county on our FEMA PA activities, and Sean, my colleague, is on the line as well to speak to that on our next slide. We provided the county with a potential option for how to calculate the eligible grant amounts for a Chambers of Commerce business interruption grant, and we drafted the weekly newsletter for municipalities that receive CRF funds from the county. Moving on to our ongoing activities, there in the top right, we are continuing touch points and outreach to key stakeholders, continuing to monitor updates at the federal and state level as they relate to new guidance and potential funding opportunities. We also continue our weekly review of county COVID-19 expenditures, as well as our support to county staff who are leading the CRF pillar programs. And finally, we've taken on submission of the county's second reimbursement request to FEMA and continue to support the first. Our areas of discussion today will be FEMA, the pillars of focus, county grant updates, and county spend update. Any questions on this slide? Okay, if not, we can move on to the next slide, and Sean will provide a quick update on FEMA.
Thank you, Rachel. Good afternoon, commissioners and judge. Quickly, following up from last week, working with the budget department, we've made all applicable edits and formatting changes that FEMA's requested. And so now, regarding the first project, the only thing that's still left to do is we're continuing outreach with the entities who the county distribute PPE to. We received responses back to approximately a third of them, and we'll be requesting an extension for FEMA's RFI on this project, as we do expect to hear back from the rest of the entities, just taking some time. So outside of that, though, we're in relatively good shape for the first project. Regarding the second project, we're still going through and filtering out costs. And on the back end, we've also been working with IT to be able to set up a way for us to pull down documents off of the virtual desktop and be able to start packaging them up. So now the process on that end is relatively in good shape as well. So a little bit of progress, and hopefully here shortly we'll have project one wrapped up once we hear back to the rest of these entities.
Any questions from court members for Sean?
No.
Okay, if not, we can move on to the next slide, which is the county's grant. Oh, I'm sorry, the pillars of focus. So since, let's see, this slide captures the high-level updates from the county's CRF programming, and since last week, we just noted the additional testing sites that have been launched. I know the county will be providing more detailed updates on those. There are no additional updates on this slide, but as the court knows, the county is actively working on CRF programs with support from Guidehouse. Are there any questions on this slide before we move on to grants? Okay. If not, we can move on. So here on the county's grants update, since last week, the grant from the Center for Tech and Civil Life has a status change from notice of funding, which is at the bottom, to awarded. So you'll now see that on the 5th line there, the Center for Tech and Civil Life. This was a grant for elections. And once that is approved and the funds have been received, we will move that amount into that left column there, which is advanced funding received. And going forward, we'll be sure to, provide maybe highlights or other ways to make sure it's clear on here, without us talking through it, that when you look at it, you'll be able to see what these updates are. So we're going to work on that for next week and going forward. And expenditures related to these grants, including CRF, are captured on the next slide. Any questions here before we move on? Okay, so we can move on to the expenditure slide. So this week, it's looking a little bit different as we get closer to the December 30th deadline for CRF expenditures. We've developed a slide with the county to offer the court a clearer sense of what the plan is to spend down CRF funds. So in the top table here, we've broken out spending by CRF pillar, and obligated here refers to both invoiced and encumbered expenditures. And social services there referring to both rental assistance and NGO assistance. As you can see from the obligated subtotal for CRF, the county has invoiced and encumbered about $119 million. This includes expenses that the county is seeking reimbursement for from FEMA PA. And once that first PW is finalized, like Sean's talking about, we'll create an additional table on here to break out those expenses. In the planned column for CRF, you'll see that the county is on track to spend all of the remaining $89.9 million in CRF funds. And to the right there, you'll see some of the activities and spending areas the county is planning on spending this through. So we have continued testing, the small business assistance grants, which are, I believe, closing today, the second round, rental assistance, which is ongoing, support for EMS and volunteer fire department services, as well as healthcare services, and also payroll for public safety employees. And moving down to multiple grants, this includes all of the grants listed on the previous slide except for CRF. And the county has spent about $5 million so far and is on track to spend the remainder by those respective deadlines. So again, note that not all of these grants require the county to spend down by December 30th. There are some that extend even past 2021. And so finally on the total line, you'll see $234 million in revenue corresponding to the previous slide, with a total obligated amount of $125 and an amount to be spent of $109 million. But as mentioned above, this is planned to be spent by the respective deadlines for each grant. Any questions on this slide or the new format? Okay, so we'll just move on to our last slide. This, repeats a lot of the previous slide, but we wanted to keep this in here as just a more visual representation. And this also includes FEMA PA as anticipated revenue. So beginning with FEMA PA, as we mentioned in previous weeks, the county has submitted its first PW, of which 75% is allocated to FEMA and 25% is allocated to CRF, which constitutes the required local match. So that 75% is seen here under earmarked, and as discussed, we will be submitting an additional reimbursement request. But going forward, we're not going to include an estimate of those until we have that request finalized. So I apologize that $6 million up there is an earlier estimate that we are currently refining. We expect to have an update on that next week. Moving on to CRF, the county has spent $106 million from its direct distributions. Separately, we estimate an additional $8 million is CRF eligible, and also shown here is the 25% local match required for FEMA PA. The county still has about $64 million in earmarked funds, and these are the funds that were based on the funds that were budgeted for each CRF pillar. So these are budgeted through December 30th, and so you'll expect to see these this amount decrease on a weekly basis as the programs continue to incur funds and the other activities that were referenced on the previous slide continue to take place. So this leaves about $27 million in CRF funds that was not allocated to one of those pillars. Though as mentioned before, that is included in the total amount of funds that is expected to be spent down by December 30th. And finally, the county has been awarded about $24 million in additional federal funds. This is separate from FEMA and separate from CRF. And from this amount, the county has spent $5 million, leaving $19 million yet to be spent. And these are considered earmarked funds as these correspond to budgets for restricted grants. So in total, the county has spent $125 million with 83 earmarked, leaving 23 remaining. And apologies, one more outdated total here. That 248 in the header line reflects also the earlier payment estimate, so we'll have that updated next week. Any questions on this slide or overall presentation?
Thank you, Rachel.
Okay, great.
So we can
Thank
go.
you.
If we can go to the updates that we provided the Commissioners Court yesterday. I'd like to go through just where we are on the various programs. Also, give you some updates on some testing counts and also small business assistance counts. So, as Rachel said, the Small Business Assistance Program, the second letting of that request is complete at 6 o'clock tonight. And as of this morning, we had 2,645 submittals, actually those that were entered into the portal. We still have about 1,600 of those that are not complete yet. 876 have been completed, and the rest are either ineligible because they were in the city of Fort Worth or a type of business that applied. So that number is increasing. One of the things that we do want to report this morning is that by the end of the day, on the second round, we are going to be asking the court to approve 36 grants for a total of $292,066. This is a fairly quick turnaround, much quicker than we saw in phase one. And so I know the auditor's office is working diligently on this, and we're all trying to expedite these applications so that we can get the money out to our small businesses. As it relates to the COVID testing, while your documents show that last week, an impressive number, 12,866 people were tested at all of our various sites. One of the things that Commissioner Allen had mentioned earlier was that we have opened a new testing site at TCC Southeast Campus in Arlington. It opened yesterday. We tested 742 individuals at that site yesterday alone. Also, Commissioner Johnson, we have opened the site up in Azle, and yesterday we did an additional 373 tests at that particular site. And then at NRH2O, which is still our most active site, yesterday we tested 1,650. Those numbers are not on your information sheet. It's something that the numbers we just simply got this morning. When we talk about the rental assistance program, if you look from last week to this week, we said last week that you were going to see an increase in the number of rental assistance efforts that we're doing. This number that you see on this chart reflects that, and you're going to see that increase substantially in the weeks to come. Finally, in the non-governmental assistance in the non-governmental assistance program, this is a document that you've seen before. We have allocated a little over $7 million and have paid out a portion of that already. That program is going good. We're going to be talking about a couple other ones here on the agenda this week yet. And then under the municipal distributions, that is somewhat of a static number for now. That will change in just a few minutes. Are there any questions on the update? If not, we said that we had two action items that we wanted to brief you on this. It is under your court communications. I will do the first one. This concerns the addition of monies to the local partners. We're requesting that the Commissioners Court allocate an additional $9 million to the local partners pillar. This would bring a total of $71 million. The $9 million will be used for programs that we are going to ask your permission for today and future programs. Those include MHMR, includes 911 district. It also includes 2 fire departments that are in the ESD, and we will be asking your action on that later on. But at this point, we're asking that you allow the shifting of money, $9 million, to the local pillar dealing with local partners.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion, a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, GK, I just wanted to make sure that I clearly understood. So this is just shifting from, I guess, that money that was not, it's not part of any other pillar, right? We're not taking away any funds from any other pillar. We're just adding funds to the local partners.
That's
right?
correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Please vote. Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously.
The second action item concerns the Chamber of Commerce program.
What about MHMR?
What's that?
Let's do MHMR next.
Okay. Sure. Russell, you want to come up and do MHMR real quick? Then we'll have to come back to that agenda item again to finish up, okay?
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. We're here today to request approval of an agreement with MHMR of Tarrant County for the distribution of coronavirus relief funds as part of the Local Partners Assistance Program. We have been working diligently with MHMR, Susan Garnett, and her incredible staff to make sure and identify and find them additional funds to cover their substantial needs that the coronavirus pandemic has caused MHMR to have to incur. And I believe Susan is here. She wanted to come up and make any comments this morning, but this is, we've been working for months on this, and we're very excited to get it before court this morning.
So what is your recommendation?
So the recommendation is to approve an ILA for $4.5 million, a little over $4.5 million with MHMR. $4,504,956 with MHMR. That'll cover 60% of the CRF eligible costs that they have incurred to date, or through the end of the year, and then the City of Fort Worth is picking up the other 40% of that.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Susan.
So now we can go back to item number one. We have one final item as it relates to A1. This concerns the Chamber of Commerce Assistance Grant Program. Ms. McMillan is here to address the court.
Judge, Commissioners, as Commissioner Fickus pointed out last week, our local area chambers have been adversely affected by the COVID-19 public health emergency while continuing to provide the services to their members and our local businesses in need. Due to their nonprofit status, chambers of commerce have found it difficult to access other federal loans and grant programs. So staff has put together a grant program that is aimed at assisting the chambers of commerce with the cost of business interruption caused by the pandemic. The dollar amount of the individual chamber grants will be determined by the financial information they provide, taking into account the percentage of their membership that's within Tarrant County outside of the City of Fort Worth. The maximum grant amount per chamber would be up to $50,000. In your packet, you have the program guidelines and the application form that we are presenting today. We estimate that $1.2 million of CRF funds from the local partners allocation that was just raised will support this program.
Move for approval.
Second. I do have a question, though.
We have a motion and second. Discussion?
Lisa, can you share with me how did we arrive at the $50,000 maximum amount?
In discussion amongst staff, and we looked at some of the other chambers. I visited with 2 or 3 other chambers, and that seemed to be an area that would provide, based on the formula we use, would provide coverage for the maximum number of chambers, looking at 2.5 times their payroll for the months of April, May, and half of March. Some of the larger chambers won't cover all of theirs, but I think they were welcoming any assistance.
Okay, very good. And that's what I was getting to. And obviously, I know that with all the chambers across the county, they're varying sizes. And my concern was equally for the smaller ones where $50,000 could make a big difference versus the larger ones where obviously it would still be helpful, but perhaps not to the same degree. But I understand. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of the court, we can go to item number 2. We're requesting that the court approve agreements between ACH Child and Family Services and Tarrant County, and also between Safe Haven of Tarrant County and Tarrant County for the distribution of CARES Act Corona Relief Funds.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Jay, do you want to do this one? Okay, Jay is going to do number 4.
Good morning, or afternoon. Today we're asking you to approve 2 agreements, one with the Eagle Mountain Volunteer Fire Department and the other with the Rendon Volunteer Fire Department for totaling $971,020. About 66% of this is for the purchase of 2 ambulances, one for each department. These items, it's a little time sensitive in order to have those items received and in service by the end of December. We are asking your approval of these 2 agreements for this equipment. We will come back probably in a few weeks for some operating expenses and amend these agreements to take care of personnel and other PPE expenses. We ask your approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Let me add, these 2 departments are very grateful for this. It helps these 2 volunteer departments that rely on your support.
On item number 5, we're going to ask Ms. McMillan to present.
In September, the City of River Oaks made a presentation regarding the establishment of a 157-acre tax increment reinvestment zone along the city's main commercial corridor on River Oaks Boulevard. They established this TERS to facilitate the development and redevelopment of the commercial, retail, and other mixed-use areas that would eventually provide over $30 million in roadway, drainage, water, sewer, and other infrastructure improvements within the zone. Today we have the participation agreement for us to participate in this tax increment financing reinvestment zone. The City of River Oaks is contributing to 75% of their incremental tax revenues to the zone, estimated to total just over $25 million over the life of the zone. And the agreement we have before you today provides the county participation at 75%, up to a maximum of just over $8.6 million. The hospital district is not being asked to participate. They are going to be seeking participation by the Tarrant County College District. So we're asking for your approval of the resolution and participation agreement.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
So finally, members of the court, on item number 6, we're requesting that the court approve an MOU between the county and Cornerstone Assistance Network and Reentry First Stop of Tarrant County to facilitate the Tarrant County Bus Pass program. What this does, we have these bus passes in our possession. We've already bought them. This would simply transfer them to the Reentry First Stop program for utilization.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, court members.
Thank you.
Actually, Judge, sorry, before we move on from GK section, GK, I wanted to ask about the COVID mediation court or clinic. We had some discussion about it some time back, and I think we had some milestones in both November and December. Can you just can you provide an update on where we are with that?
That was the alternate dispute resolution. I'm sorry, Commissioner, I didn't hear which program we're talking about. Alternate dispute resolution, was that the question?
Well, I think it was in partnership with them, but it was like a COVID mediation court or clinic.
Okay, so dispute resolution services of Tarrant County, you might remember that we've been trying to negotiate a contract with them to provide services for the remainder of this year. I think that either earlier this week we received notification from them that they were no longer interested in contracting with the county. So where we are now on that program itself, next week we will be will it be this week or next week? This week we're going to be doing the final interviews with the executive director. At that point, we're going to hire that person, and then we will go ahead and fill out the other two positions also. Our intent is still to have this program up by the end of the year, the first part of January.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Ms. Glenn.
I move to receive and file a personnel agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file a personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Good afternoon and thank you. We have two additional items on the agenda. Item number 2 is we're asking the court to approve a waiver of terminal benefits for Constable Precinct 5. Constable Garcia is requesting a waiver of 152 vacation hours. This is down from 400 hours. Effective November 11th, his office manager's position was vacated at the end of September. We are looking at net savings to the general fund, if this is approved by Commissioners Court, of almost $5,500, and that does include fringe benefits.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Our final item is item 3. Here we're asking the court to approve a double fill as well as a waiver for County Court at Law number 2. Judge Reimel's court coordinator is leaving county service at the end of this year with 400 vacation hours. As described in your court communique, this is a very critical position, obviously, to her court. Therefore, she's requesting, in addition to the waiver, she is requesting a double fill that would run from November the 28th through the end of December. The total cost of both of those requests to the general fund will be approximately $22,217, and that does include fringe benefits.
Move approval.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And Judge, if I could just make one final announcement, and this will be my last one regarding annual enrollment. If you have not made your benefit elections, and I see you smiling behind your mask, for 2021, you need to do that by tomorrow. So November 11th, tomorrow, midnight, is when the screens will close, and there will not be another opportunity to enroll for benefits until next year for 2022. So if we've not seen you and you need assistance, make sure you come down to the service center on the 3rd floor, and we'll be happy to assist you. And we'll help you too, GK.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Vinny, come on down. No, you can't have it. Yeah, it didn't take long for you guys to get that little message out about the athletics. I've already seen emails come through.
I'm back just in time. A lot of questions today, unfortunately. So we have one item for your consideration It's regarding a request for approval to submit a grant application to NACHO, which is the National Association of County and City Health Officials, for the Medical Reserve Corps Operational Readiness Award.
Move approval. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vinny. Mr. Jack, come on down. Toilet paper again, huh? Well, at least you didn't bring us the little rolls, because the roll, we don't have any equipment in our bathrooms to use.
Because of COVID, we didn't feel like we should obtain individual samples, so we're going to have to share this year. Looks like.
Yeah.
I want to thank Commissioner Fickus for being our champion. That's probably up in your highlight list also, but thank you very much for us becoming a two-ply county. We have 4 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for bid 2020-218, annual contract for disposable paper and plastic products. Our recommendation would be to award a per enterprise basis discount for item not listed, which is pretty much everything in here, awarding to the primary, secondary, and alternate vendors as shown in your court communique.
I would move approval, and I'm so glad to be able to bring Tarrant County into the two-ply world. That was many years ago.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Hope not.
Please vote. Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 2 is also a bid award recommendation for bid 2020-006, signing a contract for inmate hygiene supplies for the Sheriff's Office. Recommendation would be to award a per enterprise basis, awarding to the primary, secondary, alternate vendors as shown in court communique.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 3 is also a bid award recommendation for bid 2020-008. This is a bid for the Correction Center Cooling Tower Replacement Project. Recommendation would be toward the low bidder, Infinity Contractors International, amount of $1,032,766. If approved, we're also seeking contract approval as well as acceptance of the payment and the performance bond.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Last item in regards to bid 2021-009. This is it's an annual contract for Category A infectious substance courier services. This is the 3rd time we put this on the street. We've had issues with insurance requirements between 2 vendors. We received 1 bid this time. It was there were problems with that. I think our solution is going to be just to put an annual quote in place. We've never used this service before. Just have something in place in case we ever need it.
So you're recommending we reject all bids?
Yes, sir. Please.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Jack. Transportation. Randy, come on down.
Judge, Commissioners, we have 2 additional items for you today. The first item I'll present, the second item will be presented by Joe Trammell. We are requesting the court's approval of a resolution and agreement related to the County Transportation Infrastructure Grant Program, designating an authorized representative and making specific findings required by the Texas Department of Transportation.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Morning, Judge, members of the court. I come to you this morning requesting that the Commissioners Court establish a variance appeal board and appoint members to hear floodplain variance requests. Those nominees are as follows: Chandler Merritt from the County Judge's Office, Jeanette Martinez from Precinct 1, Jay Jackson from Precinct 2, Derek Walls from Precinct 3, Alice Moores from Precinct 4.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Are there any appointments today? You have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Please vote. Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Anything else, Mr. Mays?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Our lieutenant is still in surgery, so please keep her in your prayers. With that, we will recess our open meeting to proceed to close to discuss items exempt under section. Having returned from our closed session and there being no business to conduct at this time, we are adjourned. She blinked at me, so I know she was on your meeting.